Good morning and welcome again to our 25th week of videos. Amazing, isn't it? I do hope you've had a chance to read this amazing story that Jesus told that you can find in Luke 14:15 to 24. The reason for that is I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you, which of all the people in this story do you think comes closest to you? Which role are you playing in this story? Let me remind you of the story very briefly. A man wants to invite people to a great banquet, and so he sends out initial invitations to work out when's the best time for people to come and who can come. And when his important guests, the powerful, the wealthy, the influential, the religious, say we can come on this day, he decides to go for it. So he then has to start the preparations, killing the animals, gathering the food, getting in the wine, sorting out where they're going to hold it. And when everything is ready, he sends the messenger to tell these important guests, now is the time, come to my great banquet. And they all start to make excuses. And the excuses might sound plausible to us, but they weren't plausible in their day. It was as though we had agreed to go to some great festive occasion with people who are close family members or even personal friends. And when they tell us now's the time, we say, sorry, it's not worked out for me after all. I'm having my hair done. Or sorry, I really can't come to your feast, your banquet, your celebration, because I need to go shopping in Asda. Or maybe even, sorry about this, but I've got to get the car MOT'd. The guests are actually insulting the banquet. And when the host hears about this, he's really angry because he knows what they're doing. They've got together and they want to shame him in front of the whole community because his great banquet is going to be a complete flop. Never mind all the expense. And so he says to his servant, go and find the cripples and the blind and the poor and invite them to my banquet. They'll want to come because they don't get a chance to feast like this very often. I don't want there to be any room for those who were initially invited and have offended me. And so the servant goes off, does what his master says, comes back. They're all there waiting for the feast, but there's still room. So he says to his master, what do I do now? And his master says, go beyond the limits of our town. Go out into the country. And when you find people there, compel them to come in. So that's the story. And I wonder where you fit into that story. But let me just underline what the surprises are in this story. There are many of them. I can't deal with all of them. But the first surprise is that the excuses that were given by those who had been invited and agreed to go are so poor. They're not real, valid reasons. They're just insulting excuses. The second surprise is that the host, yes, he feels the anger because he's been so insulted and shamed by their behaviour. Instead of deciding, right, I'm going to go and get my own back on these people, he channels his anger into generosity towards others, into grace. That's the second big surprise in this story. The third surprise is who's invited. All the riffraff of the town. And then when that's not enough, they go beyond and invite the people who were sleeping under the hedgerows, vagrants and immigrants in our kind of language. And they ask them to come to the banquet because he doesn't want there to be any space. And the fourth surprise is that the owner, the host, says, compel them to come. Why would you need to compel people who are desperate for food and who have the opportunity to enjoy a great banquet? Well, it was their custom that you might say this to people out there, but you didn't expect them to say, yes, we'll come. There were etiquettes, and they knew you were just letting them know there was a great feast, so that they could kind of add to the esteem of the host. So that's why the servant has to compel them. He has to insist. He has to encourage them. He has to say, no, this is for real. This is not just tactics. We want you at the banquet. So there are all these surprises. And I wonder which role we naturally fulfill. It was Jesus, of course, who was the kingdom, was inviting people to his banquet to belong to his kingdom. He'd asked the rich, he'd asked the religious, he'd asked the influential, and they were basically saying, no thanks, we don't want to belong to you. So he turned to those who were in great need. He healed them, he taught them in language they could understand, and so on. But who are we? Are we those who have initially said, okay, yes, I'm interested in you, Jesus. Yes, I'm considering it. But then when Jesus says, do you want me to be your Saviour and Lord? Are you prepared for that? We say, no, I'm too busy. I've got too many other things to do, too many interests. No, thank you. Or are we feeling like the cripples and the poor, the disabled, or even those beyond that? Perhaps Jesus had in mind even the Gentiles. And we feel, oh, I'm not good enough for God. No, you can't possibly want me. I'm not the right sort. I don't speak the right kind of language. I'm not pious enough. I'm not clever enough. I'm not capable enough. What could I add to Jesus's kingdom? We might feel like that. And Jesus wants to encourage us if we feel like that, because he's saying to us, no, I love you. I died for you. I want you to be part of my kingdom people. So if that's you, please be encouraged. But many of us will probably feel like the servant, the one who has been sent by Jesus to invite people to come. And one of the ways we can do that right now is to invite people to sign up for the online Alpha course. The details are in the news sheet, but Jill and Martin will be ringing it. And it would be great if you could invite those friends, those that you've been praying for perhaps for several weeks since the Harvesters course, to sign up for that. And maybe say to them, it's okay, I'll be there. I'll sign up too, so we can do it together. Please think about how you can be God's servant and invite those who don't ever expect that God can take an interest in them, that God could possibly love them. Can you invite them to become part of God's kingdom feast? Please think about it and play your part. Thank you so much. Bye for now.